I appreciate you for coming on the podcast and just listening to what we have to say and just really being here so that other moms can, have the same chance to listen.
Do I just start with my first? Just tell a little bit of the backstory of what happened.
Yeah. So if you want to, what we would love to hear is just, this. You can tell us about how you found out you were pregnant with your pregnancy, the journey that you had with her, and then if you want to lead into your son's story and just give us that, that would be perfect.
Okay. So for my daughter, I found out I was pregnant 1 week after I got married. So.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know. It was a very big surprise. I think I was denial for the first trimester, but I had a pretty uneventful pregnancy. Everything went great. I was seeing an OB in the hospital back in Missouri, and I was having some contractions here and there on the third trimester, and then she was measuring fine the whole pregnancy. And then at 36 weeks and 4 days in the morning, my water broke and there was meconium in it. And I was so uneducated. I thought that's just how your water is supposed to look like.
Right.
So I called the hospital and they asked what color it was. And I guess it's like yellowish. And they're like, okay, you should just come in. And I took my sweet time coming in. So 2 hours later, I was at the hospital. And they're like, oh, there's meconium, and we're going to induce you right now. And I was like, okay. And back then, I was just so uneducated about everything. I just listened to what they said, and they made me feel like it's something like a big of an emergency. So they were about to hook me up to the IV and everything, and the nurse was, let me do a cervical check on you. And then she did it, and then she didn't say anything, and she brought in an ultrasound machine. And then she brought in the hospitalist, and the hospitalist said that your baby is actually breech, so we cannot do an induction. We'll just have to have a C-section right now.
So they didn't say anything to you, like while we're doing this, while we're bringing someone in. I'm sure that brought about some anxiety for you.
Yes, I was terrified. So I just turned 21 a couple months ago. I was terrified. Them like rushing me, and them not clearly telling me what's happening. It gave me a lot of anxiety. So the whole situation was just was made a very big deal.
Yeah.
And so the hospitalist came in, and she's like, you're going to have a C-section. And at that point, I've been in the hospital for 30 minutes.
Wow.
And she's like, yeah, it's emergent. So next thing I know, they're like having me sign all these papers and telling me a bunch of things. And literally within 15 minutes, I think we were at the hospital, like the OR. And they did the spinal book. They had some issues with that. But the anesthesiologist later told me it's because I was so young. One part of my dura was so strong, so they had to reinsert it a couple of times, which was a little scary.
I bet.
They had then I had the C-section, and she was there, and it was really nice seeing her and knowing that she was doing good. And she was born 1 hour after I went to the hospital. So everything happened really fast. That's
a lot for people to process. That's a lot of things happening at one time in an hour,
Yes. It was pretty nerve-wracking. And they told me since she had meconium, they're going to do something to suck it out of her lungs. I forgot the exact word. So they had a NICU team there, and they did it, and she seemed to be doing fine.
Oh, so great.
Even though she was 7 pounds 4 ounces, so even though she was 36 weeks and considered like a preterm, she was still able to stay with me. But then 24 hours later, she had to go to the NICU, and she stayed there for a month because of the issues they had. from the meconium from going into her lungs, and we did all of that, the C-section and everything to prevent, and it still happened. She was still for a month, and it was, I think, as a first-time mom, it was very, very scary.
You're so strong. I could understand how that would be really, really hard. You're just, I just want to pause there and just say how amazing you and your husband, had to be strong for that moment. And I'm just so proud of you guys.
Yes. Back then, I think we were just on like autopilot, doing whatever possible. But now that we look back and we're like, oh my gosh, how did we do it? Because I was also healing from a C-section, and I've had past history of addiction, so I refused to take any of the pain medication they were giving me. So I was only taking Tylenol and ibuprofen, and I remember he had to wheel me for like the first 3 weeks to the NICU. And we lived kind of far away from the hospital, so it was a long drive to the hospital too, until we were able to get a room at Ronald McDonald House that they have at the hospital. So it was a rough time, but now she's gonna be 3 years old. A couple of days later, and she's doing great. She's amazing.
Oh, so good. That makes us so happy.
Yes. So she is doing great, yes.
So when did you find out you were pregnant with your son?
So we wanted to have a 2-year age gap. So we started trying when my daughter was, I think, 14, 15 months old, and within a month, I was pregnant with our son.
Oh, yay!
And we were very excited because I feel like we knew everything that was supposed to know about baby and how to handle everything. So we were very excited, and it's right when we moved to this area from Missouri to Chattanooga and North Georgia area. Yeah, and I started seeing. Okay, let me see. Yeah, so I knew that I wanted to have a home birth from the beginning. So this time I thought I was more prepared, and I was just sure that I'm going to have a VBAC and I'm going to have a home birth. And I picked a really good midwife. We met her through church. And the first 20 weeks, I did see a hospital-based midwife until I transitioned to her care. And again, everything went great. I do remember them saying one time that my son had marginal cord insertion, but it's not as bad that where they have to monitor me too much. And he might be smaller in size. But everything was great. The whole pregnancy I was worried that he's going to be breech. And at 35 weeks, my midwife did the home visit, and she felt my stomach, and she said, it looks like he's breech. So I remember how it was terrifying. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'll have to have another C-section.
So that brought back all the emotions that you had previously with your daughter, and just remembering how that was, right?
Yes. Even though my midwife said she will do breech birth, but I just wasn't educated enough on that back then, and so I tried doing like chiropractor, everything. Like I started going to chiropractor like every other day. And then at 38 weeks, I went to see my midwife at her home, and she did an ultrasound. And she was checking, and she's like, it looks like he's still breech, but he's in a very weird position, and I cannot find his head. I can only see his legs. And she kept looking and looking until we found out that he is head down, but he's so far down that my midwife wasn't looking that down into my pelvis.
Wow.
So he was ready. And my water broke exactly on my due date. So this is the first time I actually made it to my due date, which I was, like the last month I was terrified that I'm going to have the baby early too, like last time. But this time my water broke at 7 a.m. in the morning on my due date, and there was no meconium. It was clear, and I this time I also hired a doula. So she educated me like really good my whole pregnancy. So I called my doula, I tested my midwife, and my doula told me usually, your labor will probably start within 24 hours. So So I thought I'll just rest a little bit. I sent my husband out to buy some toys for my daughter. And within an hour, I started getting contractions.
Oh, that's good.
And yes, and within an hour, and it was strong, but it was like not sporadic here and there. So I was having some preterm like Braxton Hicks like for last 3 weeks. So I thought it's just probably Braxton Hicks.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, like hour 2, I started timing it, and they were 10 minutes apart, lasting like 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So at hour 3, it kept happening. So hour 3, my doula called me, and I was talking to her on the phone, and I was telling her, you don't have to come. But as I was having contractions on the phone, I couldn't talk through them.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a little intense. So she's like, okay, I'm going to, head over there around like 1 or 2 p.m. So by the time she came over, I was having contractions every 5 minutes, but they were still lasting only 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So by this time, my water's been broken for like 4 or 5 hours. So it was happening really quick, way quicker than I thought. And I was just on the yoga ball, on my hands and knees, doing different things.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, it was still getting closer together, like 5 minutes apart, but it was not lasting more than 30 seconds. So my doula suggested that we do something called a Miles circuit.
Mm-hmm.
And we did it. It was terrifying because I remember I was still having contractions every 5 minutes, and it did, after doing the whole thing, it did help. My contractions start lasting longer. So they were lasting like almost a minute, and every 5 minutes by then.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and everyone was telling me that it's great, and I was like, okay. So then we called my midwife, because I was having contractions every 5 minutes. They were lasting a minute.
Yeah.
And my midwife, she was about close an hour away from me, so she said she was going to slowly pack up and come over. So I was in the shower, and around 5 p.m., I think she was there. She showed up, and they pulled out the tub, and I was just laboring on all different positions. And I started to notice that around like 6 p.m., that all of my contractions were on my C-section scar.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're very localized. But everything we were doing for my pain, we were doing for back labor. Like they were doing counter pressure, and they were doing, like, I was in the shower, and they were massaging my back. So back then I was in so much pain that I don't think I just thought that's how contractions are supposed to feel. I thought that you were just supposed to feel it on your scar, not on your back or your stomach. So I just thought this is normal. So I didn't really tell them until it just happening. And I think at 9 p.m., I think I was just really tired. And I also was struggling to eat or drink anything throughout the pregnancy, like throughout when I was in labor. So I was just really weak. And they were offering me honey sticks, and I did that. But I asked my midwife if she would check me. And at this point, I've been having contractions like 1 minute, and they're getting like 3 minutes every 3 minutes.
Yes.
So it's getting pretty close, and she checks me, and I'm only at 5 centimeters. So, and we all thought, and I feel like when I heard that, because from all the books I read, I don't know why I felt like I would be farther along. Mm-hmm. So that knowing that I'm only 5 centimeters after going through all of that for that long, I was just like I kind of like gave up. But then we still continued for a couple hours, and I tried the dilation station, the toilet, and I tried the tub, and nothing was helping, and all of my pain was just on my scar. And I remember an hour and a half or 2 hours later, I asked to check again, and I was only at 7 centimeters. And I remember just afterwards, and then the funny thing is my sister-in-law, my husband's sister, was also in labor at the same time, and her husband called my husband and was asking how things are going, and I overheard him saying that she's taking a nap and she's 9 centimeters.
And you're thinking,
And
okay.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's the thing what just like broke me, because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting here in pain. I feel like I'm about to split in half.
Right.
I could be taking a nap right now. Like, why am I doing like? And I think after that, like, nothing what nobody told me was working. And I just remember like leaning over my bed, and I was like standing on like a puddle of my blood, and I was just having so much pain on my C-section scar, and it wouldn't stop in between contractions either.
Wow, that's hard.
So yeah, that's hard. And that point, I told my midwife that I think I'm about to rupture. And she was checking the baby's heartbeat, and the baby's heartbeat was fine when she checked. But I think me saying that, and as I was having pain in between contractions, she suggested to talk to my husband. She's like, I think we should transfer. So the whole time I've been having contractions super close together, and eventually we did decide to transfer at midnight. So we went to the hospital, and of course they were surprised that I was having a home birth. So they put it out that I didn't have any prenatal care. They were like, we're going to have 2 NICU teams. Yeah, it was horrible. They were like, we're going to have 2 NICU teams present at your birth. We're going to I'm like, no, but I've had anatomy scans. I have done all the testing.
Right.
I'm just was going to have a home birth. And I remember when I went to the hospital, I gave up, and I was in so much pain. I just told them, like, why don't we try, let's just have a C-section. I just cannot do this. And I remember my husband just looking at me, he's like, are you sure? Like, why don't we try, like, why don't you get an epidural and just see how you feel? And the on-call doctor actually agreed with him. So I was like, the nurses were incredibly rude, but that doctor, she was like, okay, why don't we do a TOLAC? Let's just see what happens after you get the epidural. So they checked me again, and I'm at 8 centimeters. And then I get the epidural, and, I'm in bed. And that time, like, I just start crying because I've, like, given up. Just like, I was just so disappointed in myself that, like, I ended up at the hospital. And epidural did help me with the pain, but I just didn't like how it made me feel. And it took me to go from 8 centimeters to 10 centimeters with the epidural. It took me 6 hours.
So your body was just tired. That's understandable. You were in so much pain for so long, and then the emotional stress on top of the physical,
Yes, I think that was also a big part of it. And one of the main reasons I chose to have a home birth, because we didn't have any family nearby in the area, and we didn't have any friends because we just moved. So I didn't have anyone to watch my baby.
Yeah.
My first my daughter. So I thought we'll be right there, so it'll be fine. But then when it was time to transfer, I didn't know what to do with my daughter. So my doula asked me, like, do you want me to go with you, or do you want your midwife to go with you? And, she said, if it was me, I would want my midwife there. And I said, okay, let's have my midwife go, and maybe you can just stay here and watch my daughter. It was nighttime, so I just went to sleep.
Right.
So my midwife went with me, and after I got the epidural, she left. So it was just me and my husband and the nurse. So I went to 10 centimeters, and so the shift change happened, and a new nurse came in, and they were all like, they asked me a bunch of questions, but they were all like very dismissive of me the whole time. Because they just seemed like they didn't like that I was going to have a home birth. And then, I could tell that, they were like, okay, well, but you still ended up at the hospital with an epidural. So just feel what they were doing. And so a new doctor came in, and I was at 10 centimeters. So I was her first patient of the day. And I was having contractions super close, and I was at 10 centimeters. So, but then when she came in after I reached 10 centimeters, my contractions slowed down. And I think that actually is normal.
It is.
Yeah, but I remember she was just getting, like, I guess, I don't know, she didn't want to wait. So she's like, okay, give her some Pitocin. So they gave me Pitocin, and I started pushing. And of course, since I had epidural, I was on my back and I was doing the pushing. So I pushed, and within, I think, an hour later, pushing for an hour later, she said, like, okay, your baby's head's out. You're not having a contraction right now, but if you want to give another push, your baby's body will come out and he will be here. So I was like, okay. So I give a big push, and next thing I know that there's like a bunch of people on top of me, and my legs are up in the air, and my nurse is on top of my stomach trying to push the baby out.
So they did the like the shoulder dystocia maneuver where they put your legs way back.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
and I'm sure if you didn't know what was going on, I'm sure that was a lot to take in right then.
Yes, I was shocked at what's happening, and I remember my husband was also like lifting my leg up, and they got him out. It was a 90-second shoulder dystocia, so it wasn't very long. And I told them I wanted delayed cord clamping and everything before that. So they put him on my stomach, and he just wasn't crying. He was just kind of making like a hiccuping sound, but he had a heartbeat, and I just remember like, why isn't he crying? What's happening? And next thing I know that they cut the cord and they put him into this warmer right next to me. And I saw that one of his arms just like folded kind of backwards and like super white, while his whole body is pink. Eventually, they did some stuff to get him to start crying. And I was like, okay, now can I have my baby? They're like, no, we have to take him to the NICU right away. So I still don't know what's happening. So I'm just happy that he's crying. And then they took him to the NICU, and then we're there left alone. And then my doctor is like, okay, I'm going to start stitching you up. You tore. And I was like, okay, how bad is it? And she's like, let me take a look. And then she looked at her, and she's like, it's a 4th-degree tear. It's going to, it's going to be a long repair. And the whole time I'm crying, sobbing, like asking, where's my baby?
Oh.
Yeah, and I think then someone from the NICU came and told me that they're giving him CPAP, and then his lungs are doing good. His arm is broken. He had a humerus fracture because of the shoulder dystocia. So but they explained it to me afterwards, like I think 30 minutes later, that his shoulders got stuck and they had to break his arm, and my doctor, in the process, ripped me with a 4th-degree tear. And so... yeah, and they brought him back. Since babies, their bones are so malleable, he didn't have to have a cast. They just had his sleeve pinned to his chest. And, he was in so much shock that I couldn't latch him. And at this point, I'm bleeding a lot. And it took her like almost hour and a half to stitch me from the 4th-degree tear. And I lost a lot of blood. A couple days later, because of that, I had to have a transfusion because my blood levels were so low, I wasn't making any breast milk. But we found my son, because of that, they were like telling me, and then we found out he was 8 pounds, 13 ounces. So according to them, it's a really big baby, and now he needs his sugar checked. So they started checking his sugar every 30 minutes. And since it was low, they wanted to bottle feed him, because I would latch him and he wouldn't latch because he was just so traumatized.
Right.
And he just wanted to sleep. And so they started giving him bottle. And luckily I was able to get some of my colostrum from the house brought back. And he drank that in like they were giving him like almost 2 ounces from the beginning of his life. Like when he was like
that's
couple
a
hours
lot.
old.
That is a lot for a newborn.
Yeah, and I always read that their stomach is so small, they don't need, any, like a couple drops.
Yeah.
But they kept doing, I remember I would hold him and I would try to latch, and the nurse would come and like physically take him from me and stick a needle on his toe, like on his ankle or whatever that part of the body is called.
The heel, yeah.
And the heel pricks, yeah. And then he will scream, and he was so traumatized by that, he wouldn't let us touch his toes and feet for months after we brought him home. Because he would scream because his body just knew.
Yes.
Though we struggled with breastfeeding since then, because we couldn't the latching wasn't working, and the hospital lactation consultants weren't very attentive, and everyone would just kept telling me how much he needs to eat. And of course, my body's not going to make 2 ounces every 2 hours at like 24 hours postpartum.
Right.
So it was very rough, and but he's fine now. He just turned 1 a couple of days ago, so his arm healed. Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that.
I know. My 4th degree tear is a lot better too. I started seeing a pelvic floor therapist, and my OB did a good job with the repair that I don't have any long-lasting side effects. So I'm pregnant again, and I'm due actually in 2 months. So we'll see what happens. I'm hoping for another home birth again.
That's beautiful. And anyone that's listening, we all will be praying for you to have that redemptive home birth that you deserve, because you are so strong, and you and your babies you've had this journey together. And I'm just so amazed at how, our bodies can do so much and still keep fighting and still keep going. And I know that your journey hasn't been an easy one, and we will all be praying moving forward for your 3rd birth and your home birth. And I think that that's what you need. I think that's great.
Yes, I hope I'm back here with like a better outcome next time.
And thank you for sharing it with everyone. I know that isn't easy to share, and anybody listening, we appreciate it, because that helps us. If someone's been through that, it makes you feel like you're not alone.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me and giving me a platform to share this.
Of course. Thank you so much for coming on here and just talking with us.